Peace and welcome to another edition of Atlantis Build Talk Radio. I'm your host, Saladin Allah, and in today's episode, I am excited to share with you this insightful and explosive interview with world-renowned 75-year-old raw foodist Annette Larkins. We talk about her journey in health and wellness, and she's actually the creator of Annette's Raw Kitchen DVD, the books Journey to Health 1 and 2, and she hosted a 12-part public television series called Health Alternatives with Living Foods. She's been featured in various different publications around the world, as well as radio and television shows, which includes The Steve Harvey Show. In addition to this interview, I encourage you to check out Annette's website at www.annettelarkins.com, and her name is spelled ANNETTELARKINS. For more information about her Fountain of Youth insights, as well as the various different products that she offers. So without further ado, thanks for tuning in. Peace.
So to get into our interview, I want to thank you first and foremost taking the time to speak with me and giving me an opportunity to share your journey and your experience with my readership and my listening audience. What would you say was your earliest memory of your journey? When did you get some sense of confirmation that you wanted to take this path in life?
Well, let's see. That's interesting. Actually, the earliest would be in 1963 at the age of 21. That is my first initial, I should say, step onto the path that I have taken was when I gave up the animal flesh. I began to abhor the taste, the touch, the smell of animal flesh, even though I continued to cook it for my family because it would be unfair of me to subject them to an idea that I had seemingly suddenly come upon. I understood later that it wasn't all of a sudden. My individual composition as a human being dictated that it would culminate for me where it has, but I had no way of knowing that at the time. But that was the initial beginning. Had nothing to do with health. I was nutritionally unaware. I knew your 4 basic food groups of the day, and that was about it. But that was the beginning in 1963 at the age of 21.
Now, was it challenging for you to just give it up cold turkey like that? Because there's a lot of people, actually when I mentioned that I'm going to be interviewing you, some people ask me that. How do you make that transition? Because they don't seem like they're at a point where they can just stop it cold turkey.
See, the thing of it is I am a cold turkey individual. However, and I always tell people you have to follow that whichever you are. You have to know what you are. Some people can be weaned. Some people need to be weaned, and others can go cold turkey. But you have to know what kind of an individual you are so that you can act accordingly. I am a cold turkey individual. It's usually all or nothing for me. I can be moderate, but that takes work. And some things I do work at it, depending on what it is. But you see, there was not challenging for me because, as I stated, I began to abhor. I wanted nothing to do with it. The thought of animal flesh going into my body, at that particular time, it was a Saturday afternoon, I had removed some chops for the evening meal from the freezer, and while checking the progress of those thawing chops, there was this feeling that came over me. And that was it. I looked at the chops, and it was like, oh, good heavens, the thought of me eating that. And mind you, that morning, my husband having, at the time, well, my husband is still my husband. We've been married for 58 years, but at the time, he was a butcher. He owned a butcher shop. And for that morning, we had all of the traditional Southern cookery. Of course, he afforded us the opportunity to have whatever or however many meats we desired. And that morning, I know there were at least 2. There may have been 3 meats, but we had bacon and ham, of course. And all of that stuff I had that morning. It shows you how quickly things can change. And by afternoon, when I removed those chops from the freezer, that was it. That was the very last time I had animal in my body. 1963. But you see, it wasn't challenging at all for that. There were some other things that were a little challenging, but basically, when I'm done with something, that's it. I'm just done with it, and so it was not a challenge at all because, like I said, I began to abhor. I could not stand it. I didn't want it. I didn't even want to touch it, but I did continue to cook it for my family for some time. I don't cook any meat now, but and have it for a very, very long time. But so that's it. So no, in answer to that question, it was not challenging at all.
Oh wow! So now, once you made that decision, did you also begin to incorporate some type of exercise regimen to go along with that decision?
Not at that time. Not at that time. That all came later. It was a progression, even though it was like cold, bam, that was it with that. As far as on the food continuum or my lifestyle change altogether, that was a progression. That came later on because even that was the first thing that I gave up was the dead animal flesh or any kind of animal flesh. But the next phase was the dairy products. Having read, of course, that, no, I apologize. It wasn't dairy products. The next phase was actually refined sugar and flour and all of that stuff, all of the refined stuff, the sugar, flour, all the white stuff, the white rice and that whole thing. So I was eating cooked food at the time, but I chose the brown rice and I chose brown, whole wheat flour and stuff like that. But now when I gave up the dairy products, which was the phase after that, I did not give up the cottage cheese. So here where it becomes a challenge. Gave up dairy products, but I had this hankering for cottage cheese. The desire was so strong, I decided, listen, I'm not going to fight it. I will eat it because I know at some point it would no longer be a part of my diet. I didn't know how it was going to occur. But after some period of time, I was removing cottage cheese from the carton to put on a salad or something. And you know how you're eating something and you'll take a taste of it? And I put a spoon or a fork or whatever it was in my mouth full of the cottage cheese, and there it was. That was the moment. That was it. I tasted the carton in which the cottage cheese had come. My taste buds had become so sensitized because at that point I wasn't eating canned foods. I had given up the canned foods. And my taste buds had become so sensitized until that was it. I just wanted no more cottage cheese. So that was the end of that. So that was it. No dairy products, no eggs, all of that. So that was the next, that was that phase. And so there was where the challenge was because I held on to that cottage cheese. I don't even know how long it was, but I held on to it for a while.
Yeah, I think all of us have some cottage cheese in our life in some capacity that we keep holding on to.
Indeed. Yeah, that could be a metaphor, the cottage cheese.
Definitely. So with your changes, what would you say have been the biggest mental and spiritual benefits of your journey thus far?
Well, just the whole of it, just the making the progression going from one point to the next. Each time it was like a recess. You have these recessed lights. You can lower them and then and turn them higher and higher, brighter and brighter, and just the process itself, just going higher, reaching another point that was better than before. So it has come to that point where I am right now. I don't know where I shall go from here, but I'm in a space, or let's say I'm in a place in time and space where I know this is where I need to be. And, of course, my whole journey to this point has been certainly a spiritual uprising. It has been educational. It has been this has been my richness. It has been my way because bringing me to a healthier state in my life has been my wealth. And I say all the time that health is wealth because without it, what good does financial wealth mean? It means absolutely nothing as far as I'm concerned. So that it all has had its meaning and all of the whatever transitions I've made. It's all the journey, and the journey continues because we always want to grow, and I continue to grow.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I'm a youth advocate, so I've been teaching preschool for some time, and then I also have an after-school program. I've been working within that.
And I congratulate you for that, because I feel, it's sometimes it's like I can feel, and that's one of the things that happens, I think, not to say that other people don't do, but I'm just saying in my particular case, because we can only go by our own experiences, what somebody else does, if that's what they do. But I generally can feel the spirit of the individual with whom I'm associated. I get that feeling from you just in the brief time that we've spoken. I get that spiritual feeling, a spiritual connection, that you are so devoted and loyal to this thing that you're doing. And I say that's so wonderful because, hey, you're grabbing them where they need to be grabbed. That molding period.
Yes.
That's important. So that so it's great to have someone like you in charge of the little ones. I interrupted you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I appreciate that. And, one thing I was thinking is, even though when it comes to personal growth and development, that being our own journey, that it also affects those who are around us. So what has been that part of your experience with those who have not decided to take that path, who have relationships with you? Because it's ultimately not only the changes or the transformations we're making, but other people are assessing those changes and transformations, and they have to make some adjustments too. So how challenging has that been?
Well, when you say they have to make adjustments, how do you mean that? Because they really don't have to make any adjustments other than because, as I told you before, when I did what I did, when I stopped eating the meat, I thought it was unfair of me to subject my family to an idea I had suddenly come upon. So they continued to eat the same way that they had been eating. I was cooking 2 separate meals. I cooked one for me and one for my family. And as much as I hated the touch, the smell of dead animal flesh, I did it because I thought it would be unfair of me. And I said that's one thing to put on my epitaph, is that it was her endeavor to be fair. So they did not suffer, and they didn't suffer in any way because they didn't stop doing what they had done before. I don't get on a soapbox and preach to anyone, and I don't try to convince those who do not wish to be convinced. So the thing about it is I was an influence, and everyone in my family, my immediate family, did, because of the influence that I guess you could say, emoted or evoked or whatever, however you want to put it. Because of that, they were affected in ways that, not through any coercion on my part, but because they saw differences. My husband became a vegetarian for 6 years. He was a businessman, though, and I told you that he had been a butcher originally, but he was a businessman, and he said that being out, that was his excuse, because I figure that if it's truly something you want to do, you will find a way to do it and maintain it and all of that. But his reason was different than mine, you see, so it was a challenge for him because it was a different reason than mine. It wasn't that he stopped liking meat. It was that he saw the benefits that I was deriving from. The first thing was I found that my energy level increased. I found that I never got sleepy again like I used to, with the heavy meat meals. I wouldn't be sleepy. Like I said, my energy level increased. And I found that I had been very susceptible to colds, the common cold. If somebody came around me just pretending to have a cold, I would show that individual how to really get down sick. I'm talking runny nose, puffy eyes, aching body. I could get bedridden from a common cold that somebody was pretending they were having.
Wow.
And I'm exaggerating, but, reality is that I was really susceptible to the common cold. I found that I no longer had the common cold, I wasn't susceptible to the common cold as I had been. So there were changes, and my husband began to notice these changes. So he decided that he was going to stop. But now what he said, what I say was an excuse. He being the businessman he was, back then there weren't the salad bars that they have now, you know, and it was difficult. I can understand that. But again, if he truly had decided that he was going to do it, he would have found a way. But he started with fish, and, you know, all you have to do is start with one thing. It's like if somebody smokes and they take a puff of a cigarette, if they stop and they take a puff of a cigarette, well, that's nicotine fit that, you know, it grabs you and that's it. So he started with fish, and the next thing you know, and so he was back where he started originally. So, you know, so anyway, though, going back to your original question, they were only affected in the way later on, after a period of time, they saw things that were happening with me, and they decided, each one of them wanted to, I tell the story in the third booklet, the downloadable Journey Tale 3. I tell the story about, well, I give a story in there about my eldest son, who is now following in my footsteps for sure. And I don't know if you've seen any of the videos on YouTube, but he does them. He does them, and he's following in Mommy's footsteps, and he's glad. And I tell a story in there about him because he was heavily under, and he doesn't mind this at all. He welcomes it because anybody he can help, and people are really inspired by his story. I in the section making that change because he was heavily drugged. He was used drugs and all of that, and I tell his story. But each one of my family members have, at some point, had an experience. The other son, the youngest son, he abstained from dead animal flesh for a year. And again, it was challenging for them in that sense, for the meat part of it. But it was no challenge for me. But anyway, I hope I answered the question about...
Yes. Sometimes people, when it comes to their own peer group, you know, when you look at you, you're peerless when it comes to a lot of people who are from your generation that do not look like you, that are not making those type of life-changing decisions. And who do you hang out with? You know, I mean, who are your associates? Who are your friends? You know, and if they are your peer group that are not making the type of decisions that you're making, is it challenging to be able to maintain those type of relationships when they may not be interested in health and wellness?
Absolutely not, because the whole point is this. I'm never offensive to anyone. I don't expect people to be where I am. I was doing an interview one time for, she was the first one to do a big news story on me, the Miami Herald. It was this reporter, and I had to go over to her in her environment back there during that time. Okay, I had to go to the Miami Herald's building, the whole office and everything, and it was around lunchtime, and we went to the cafeteria there, and as we were walking in the line, she said, of course I had nothing because I was so programmed. I don't eat out with people. Well, I mean, I don't eat anywhere. I don't eat anybody's food but my own. Nevertheless, as we were walking through the line, she was getting her food, and she says, "Oh, Annette, I guess I shouldn't have this, should I?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" We go to another area. She says, "This isn't good for me." And I said, "If you want it, get it." The third time she questioned me, I said, "Listen, B," her name was B. Hines. I said, "I'm not the food police. You get whatever you want. You know, you eat just in the way that you normally eat. I don't try to have anyone, you know, do what I do, but I demand respect, and and they have to. And the whole point is this: listen, we can be together. We're a gregarious animal. We like to be with our own kind, so we can be together. We can talk. We can laugh and make merriment. And I don't have to eat and drink to do that. You can get into my mind, I can get into yours, and let's be, you do what you do and I do what I do. And, they said, what do they say, that religion or politics or something makes strange bedfellows? Whatever, it doesn't matter to me because, listen, I've lived in the house with a man, been married 58 years, and haven't, he wasn't eating the way that I was until he decided that he wanted to, and I will go to a restaurant with him. I'll be with other people, and it's just that it doesn't matter. I can be with people, so I don't give off those vibes where, listen, I'm scoffing my nose, turning my nose up at you, and because I live in a world of carnivores. Okay, I want you to know that I equate carnivorism and cannibalism to be one and the same. Flesh, as far as I'm concerned. But it doesn't matter. You do what you do. And listen, the whole thing, too, is we have to be on this, like somebody gets religion and all of a sudden everybody has to be that which they are. They found it. Oh, yes, this is it. You must be it. No. They don't think about they weren't there all the time. I've been there and done that. So I carry myself in a manner that people are not going to be offended by me. I was in South America one time in Suriname. It's called Paramaribo, Suriname. And that was during the time that I was entertaining. And I was singing, and the band, they were invited to this very posh estate and outside of the city. And the band leader came to me and invited me. He said to me, but this was years ago. He said to me, I was vegetarian at that time. I was eating cooked foods. But he said to me, now listen, Annette, don't. He said, they'll probably be offended if you don't eat. You can just have a little piece of meat. He really didn't. He didn't get it. You can have a little piece of meat. And I said, oh no. I said, it's not my intent to offend. I said, but then I know I'm not going to compromise. I shan't. So I was telling him that I wouldn't go. I respectfully declined, and he. Finally, the whole band came to me. They were like on their knees and everything, and they convinced me to go. When we got there, it turns out when they found out that I didn't eat meat, I guess that was such a novelty. That was something I was like an alien from outer space or something, but a friendly one. And they were around me. I had this audience. They were asking questions. Well, what do you eat? And how did you do? And they had all of the questions, you see. But again, I did not put them in an uncomfortable position. It's not my place to do that. And I sincerely don't feel like scoffing anybody because they don't do what I do. Hey, listen, there's enough room for us all, so you do what you choose to do. And I've been there and done that, so I know where they are. When I've had people back in the day say, oh, that's great, that's wonderful what you do, but I got to have my meat. I understood it. Because there was a time when I could not have a meat. If I didn't eat meat at a meal, it wasn't a meal to me. So what kind of mind do I have to forget that that's where I was? I have to be tolerant, understanding, and that's what I am. That's just who I am. So that's it for me.
Yeah. So how long have you not been eating meat? How many years?
54 years, 54.
Oh, wow.
I was 21. Do the math. I was 21 in 1963. This is 2017. I'm 75. That's how long it's been. I think that's about 54 years.
One of the things that I talk to my youth about is it's important to celebrate our milestones and acknowledge those particular moments in our growth and development. So what would you say has been, in your journey, the most recent milestone?
The most recent one?
Yes.
Well, I tell you, when you say milestone, the most recent, I can't think of anything recently because I've been following the same prescription, I've been following the same prescription, but I tell you something that I just recently got into a few days ago. I've been doing it now about 4 days. I've known about it for a long time, but somebody sent me a documentary, and I decided, hey, it's time I get out and do this. I have things in my life that I'm considering doing but haven't gotten around to, you know what I mean? So something that I'm doing now, and I think this, of course, just maintaining and as I said, we grow. So what I'm doing now is, as far as a change or a stage in development, is grounding. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of them.
It's where you connect with the earth by being barefoot?
Oh, yes, I'm familiar.
Okay.
I'm familiar. Yes.
And so just as a few days ago, interesting you should ask that, a recent milestone, I couldn't think of anything, and that's what comes to mind. I am grounding now, and that's something I intend to incorporate in my everyday stuff. There's always something coming up because, like I said, you're always growing. We're always growing, something always new coming about. So really, that's the answer. That would be the latest.
Yeah, you know what, too? That seems like that would also be something that would be therapeutic while gardening, if you're grounded while gardening, because I read something recently.
And guess what? I had not been previously until I decided, hey, this is it, because there are things like yoga. I believe in yoga. I don't really practice yoga to any great extent, and I'm saying one day I'm going to do it, and, I haven't done it. But the grounding I've known about for a long time and have not done it, and so even with the gardening, I've always worn these gardening shoes which are made of rubber, and that's certainly counteractive to being grounded. So that's what I'm doing of late. Is that last 2 days? I think about the fourth day. That and you know what? It's interesting because just going out there, and I've devoted a little spot where I go and I just go back and forth, and at the same time, you see, there is a three-pronged progress, or I should say, I'm focusing on three different things, and one is I'm getting the sunshine, I am doing the grounding, and I'm getting in my steps because I get in probably 18,600 and something steps a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, as a rule, that is what that's my standard. That's what I shoot for. There are times certainly that I do more than that, but so it's threefold. I'm getting the sunshine, I'm doing the grounding, which there's nothing wrong with me, but I saw that documentary, things that it helped people in certain ways, and not that I'm looking for any help, but see, I work from the perspective of prevention. And so, not that anything has to be wrong with me, but if there's a modality that I find interesting and it is in a healthy way, something that's healthy, and it makes sense to me, then why not add it? Oh yeah, that's the question. That's the latest. I couldn't think of anything to begin with. That's it.
Okay. Now, in terms of where you actually get your food from, do you do gardening, or are you a part of some type of co-op where you have access to fresh fruits and vegetables?
No, I don't have. I'm not with a co-op, but I have an organic farm that's near me where I can get organic foods, and let me be honest, everything that I have is not organic, though it was preferable to have it, and because you'd want to escape getting these GMOs, which are the which is really bad, and pesticides and all that stuff, genetically modified, for those who don't know what that is, the genetically modified organisms. You want to stay away from that. But again, listen, I tell people in the second booklet, in the introduction, I quote Salvador Dali, the famous Spanish painter. He said, don't fear perfection, reaching perfection. He said, don't fear perfection. You'll never reach it. Which is probably true, but I follow that quote by saying, nevertheless, we can do the best we can.
Strive for perfection.
Yeah, you can strive for it, even though you may not reach it. Hey, I say put the best foot forward and move in the direction of. It's like I was telling you earlier, I have a thirst, a quest for knowledge. I know that when I leave this planet, I will not have learned everything that I wanted to learn, but I'm going at it, I'm doing the best I can. So,
now, in terms of how you manage stress in your life, is that also a major part of your mental health and physical wellness?
Of course. I tell people all the time that in addition to what we put in our bodies, eating and drinking. That's not the only. I have this like a charter, of for the lifestyle, rules in the charter. And certainly food and drink are at the top, and they're foundational. But in addition to that, you've got to get enough sunshine when you can, that wonderful gift which we've been given. Of course, you want to exercise not only your body, because that's what people think of, but let's exercise our brains as well, this fantastic mechanism which we've been gifted. I mean, I'm in awe of the brain. I really, truly am in awe of the brain. It is so wonderful, so great, so fantastic, and we just don't use it to capability, and we'll never probably use it to capability, but again, let's strive, and, getting enough rest, of course, and I think rest depends on the individual's needs. It depends on your lifestyle, your whole thing, as to how much rest you need. I always tell people that if I go to bed and I wake up within 4 hours, I'm jumping up and ready to meet the day with an attitude conducive to giving myself, not only myself, the best that I can give for that day, but spreading it out to others. There's no scientist that can tell me I need 4 more hours sleep.
Yeah.
So, it's individual needs. Some people will need 4 hours. Some people might need 12 hours. But it's the individual need that counts. And you see, in addition to the things I just mentioned, attitude. Attitude plays such an important role, I think. And so I try not to, I'm always trying to focus on the positive. And I always try to eliminate the negative. It's nothing to enhance my existence, so why be bothered with it? The whole point is what I'm striving for in this life is to be psychologically, physiologically, and spiritually sound at whatever age I am. And I usually, when I'm talking to someone by phone, I'll say, if I drop dead, while I'm speaking with Saladin, you tell them she lived well. That's what's important. Because I'm not concentrating on the leaving. I'm concentrating on the living here and now and doing the best that I can, maintaining, having the mind that I have, being as sharp or sharper than when I was younger. Because, when people reach my age, what do they say? Well, or even younger, I'm not as young as I used to be, so my mind is not, well, why isn't it? We're not using it. People need to find ways to exercise their brains. I have my ways, and people need to find things that they really enjoy, they like, and go with them to make sure. I love word games. I love word games, finding words, and
I could tell by the words that you use. You're very loquacious, and you have a way of articulating things. But you know what, too? I think that also coincides with our ability to manifest what we want in life, because you can actually articulate what it is that you want.
As they use it as a man thinketh, but as a man or a woman think. I tell people, listen, I don't know where I grabbed this figure from, but I say 90% of our existence is dealt with through the psyche, because you can make yourself physically ill or physically well simply by the way you think. So it's very important that if you want things to happen positively. I was talking to a lady from Canada with whom, we speak quite frequently, but I'm just talking to her, telling her, listen, she brings in the negative stuff, and she was laughing at something that happened to one of the stars, and I'm going, well, that's really not funny. That's negative attitude. If you bring about that, that's why you have negativity in your life, because you waddle in the negative. To get into the gossipy thing of bringing people down. No. I want to uplift people. Therefore, I'm uplifting myself.
So what would you say are certain stressors that you need to minimize in terms of stimulus from the outside environment, whether it's radio,
worrying about
TV?
Traffic. You cannot get through this life without being in some traffic jams and standing in some lines. Just deal with it. okay? Deal with it. If you're in your car, play some soothing music, or if you're at a standstill, you have a book with you so that you can read something. If you're at a total standstill, think positive thoughts. Think something constructive that you can do when you're out of that position, out of that situation. Listen, that, people just bring, when somebody makes a mistake on the road, all the cursing them out and the raising your finger and all that, that's not going to change it. It happened. And don't we all make mistakes? Let's be more tolerant.
Oh, wow. You sound just like one of my sisters that lives in Atlanta. I can actually see her at your age right now because she said some of the same things. But, again, what I said earlier about your own peer group, she's quite different than her own peers. So she's making life-changing decisions, and you see her, and it's like, well, she doesn't really look like other people her age,
Well,
and
sometimes it starts early on because it started with me early on, very early on. I can remember as an adolescent, I remember thinking differently than those in my peer group. Certain things that I can remember looking at life differently and responding to things differently. So it can start early.
Now, how would you describe your spiritual perspective? Because sometimes people may ascribe this journey to a particular religion or belief system. How would you define yours?
Well, I don't have a religion with which I'm connected. I choose not to involve myself in organized religion. Back in, I think it was 1963, I read in a local portion of a magazine, a Sunday magazine, that there were at that time over 253 different man-made religions in the United States alone. Forget about all the isms, Buddhism, Hinduism, all those. Forget those. Over 253. I think in the downloadable Journey to Health 3, I mentioned that now I think there are 300 and something because they're on the rise. Man-made religions, but that's what they are. Man-made religions. I have a very spiritual connection. I do believe in a creator. I am highly, highly spiritual from my perspective. But I do not connect myself with any particular, and I've sought it out actually in earlier times. And there's an incident that occurred that I won't go into with a particular religion. I was so strung out and hung up and ready to just involve myself into that religion, and an incident occurred that prevented me from going any further, and it stopped me cold. From in the involvement, but I sought different religions, but I found that I'm just not religious material.
Yeah, it seems like you have a direct relationship with what that is that sometimes people try to sell as being an intercessor or mediator between you and your personal relationship with your path. Yeah,
and that is it. And you said it. It's personal. It's my personal relationship, and no one can steer me from it. They are entitled to whatever they choose to believe and go where they choose to worship and all of that, but I have my way, and that's my way.
How does it actually feel to be of your age, just chronologically and young and full of vigor, and then to see people who are your same age that are immobile, sick, shut in, and that are not able to really enjoy the type of life that you lead?
Well, I tell you, I feel wonderful that I am, because I wonder what 75, I know because society dictates it. There was a remark, a comment on YouTube back in 2012 when things started to really open up. And the comment was it wasn't directed to me, but it was about me, and the person said, and I don't remember whether it was male or female, but the person said, every day in my city I see older people look like they're melting on the sidewalk. And that strikes fear in me. And then comes along this lady. I was 70 at that time. And they went on to, give accolades and all that and compliments and what have you. And then I had this one young lady wrote, and she said, now that I have seen you, I'm no longer afraid of growing older. She was 23. And I know that if I do some of the things that you do, if I live my life right and whatever, and she said, I too can one day be like you, Annette Larkins. Thank you. This was coming from all over the place. And hip-hoppers were commenting and putting things on their channels or whatever. But you know what's interesting about this is that before this time, I mean, people were always making comments and stuff like that, but it didn't, you just something that happens and you get it and you don't really, I wasn't thinking about it. But when all of the hullabaloo came about, then it started dawning on me, well, but my thought was, shouldn't everybody be feeling like this, or, that's what it was to me. But see, so now only when it was really, really when it was really, really called to my attention that I was noticing the difference. You understand what I'm saying? Because sure, I saw that people were sick, but young people are sick too. You know what I'm saying? There are younger people who are sick and out of it. And when I thought about it, I'm going, well, what am I supposed to feel like? I don't know. How am I supposed to feel? I've not been introduced to Mr. Arthritis and don't care to, but like I said, younger people experience that as well. I only began to notice the difference, notice a tremendous difference when it was really, really out there, called to my attention in huge numbers. You follow what I'm saying? Because it had always come to me, but you only meet a certain amount of people at a certain given time. But when it starts coming, when you're bombarded with it, then that's kind of a wake-up call.
Yeah, definitely.
So as far as the feeling goes, I think people contact me are looking because they want what I have, and I've understood, and I think I say that in the second booklet, I think in the introduction in the second booklet, Journey to Health, too, that I have the fruitfulness of youth and the wisdom of age, and you can't beat the combination.
Oh yeah, you can't. You can't.
I think that's what people are looking for. The power is within the individual.
Yes, and you show that it's possible too. It's kind of like sometimes, in particularly with, and I'm speaking just primarily about women, a lot of times women may just invest more in appearance as opposed to substance and content that actually appreciates and value as you become older.
Indeed, and that's the thing. I think about what people are always looking for answers and in potions, lotions and all of that. But what about the inside? What are you feeling, inside, and how do you feel inside? And I think if you're feeling good inside and you treat your inside well, I think it will manifest itself outwardly.
I know a lot of your advice, people probably want to just bottle it up and sell it.
Well, I always say that about the energy. A lady, I just finished talking to a lady earlier, and she said, oh, my goodness, she said, we're the same age. She said, oh, she said, that energy that you have, she said, I need it. I want it. And I said, listen, if we could bottle it and sell it, we would all be millionaires because I do have energy to spare, and I am so grateful for it.
Yes.
But guess what? I have put in the time to achieve it. I own it because it's mine. And you want yours? Get it. You can. It's up to you. The power is within. Have but to do that which is necessary, that which is conducive to living a healthy lifestyle.
Now, do you get a lot of questions in regards to your sex life and your virility as well in that particular area?
Well, I don't get a lot of questions about that, but I did have a question. I remember back in 2012 there was a question that came up about me personally, but otherwise I will have guys calling and asking, you know, about what.
Are you married?
well, yeah, that's always. But they want to know what can they do and what's good for this, and that kind of thing. And my overall thing though is, when people, I always let people know that, listen, I am not a physician. Don't claim to be one. My experiences deal with life. That whatever I have, it's from life. My thing is this. So I don't like to give specifics. My thing is overall healthiness. You see, if you do those things that I had mentioned earlier about getting enough exercise for both the mind and the body, and eating and drinking well, giving your body what it needs, your cells, so they can, instead of being tantalized, they can be satisfied. Getting all the things that you need. I think that makes you virile, sensual, and all of that, So one can achieve it by doing what you're supposed to do in order to make it happen.
One of the other questions that one of my listeners wanted to know about as well is detoxification. Do you actually practice fasting, or do you do anything in that particular
I do.
area?
I talk about that in the Journey to Health 3, the downloadable one. I spend 7 days with Annette because people always want to know, well, what do you do? What do you eat? This and that. And so I decided to do, my son and I, we talked about it. He says, why don't you do, chronicle things? So I said, okay, I'll include that in that piece, the third booklet, which is the digital one. I'll include that. And so within the 7 days, I give a little bit of this. I tell what I do, what I've eaten, what I've done, blah, 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 all the stuff that I've done. They get a chance to see that. It's like 7 days with Annette, okay? On the seventh day, I fast. I did a fast on the seventh day. And I periodically, I've done all kinds of fasts, because they have different kinds. You can do liquid fast, water fast. There's even a dry fast where you don't have anything at all, any water or any food. And, so I've done all of these. And I've done the juice fast. I've done the water fast. I've done, So, yes, fasting is incorporated in there. I believe that's great because you give your people don't realize how your digestive system really, really works very hard. People, if you don't understand what's going on with the body, then you would have no knowledge of knowing that. It works very hard to digest food. That's a job. And give it a rest. It's like it goes, oh, thank goodness, I get a chance to rest. And for however long, whatever period of time you do it, if you do it and you do it successfully, the body is grateful, really. But I don't advise people to do that because, like, diabetics shouldn't do it, you know what I'm saying? Without, I always tell people to check with their healthcare practitioner, But if they're able to do it, then after checking with someone who knows, then but every time I do any, whether it's a day fast or a month fast, I feel it just it's uplifting once you've done it. But for one thing, I think it's psychological because people are accustomed to eating all the time. When you don't eat, you feel like you really accomplished something by not doing what the norm is, So incorporate fasting as part of my lifestyle.
Yeah, you definitely too learn to gain more governance over your physical composition that way as well. And then, like, one of the things that I've told people is when you don't rest intermittently with your diet and what you eat, that's equivalent to your digestive system working in a factory 24 hours a day. They don't never get a break. So that's definitely, I think, also linked to longevity. Because, like you said, you're really overworking yourself internally, and that's not even speaking about what a person may be doing physically externally. as far as their daily routine and the lifestyle that they're living and the level of stress that they're dealing with, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so could you tell me a little bit about where people can link with you in regards to getting your booklets, and then also just let us know about the different booklets that you also have available?
Yes, my website is AnnetteLarkins.com, and I'll spell that. It's ANNETTELARKINS.com. It's AnnetteLarkins.com. Okay. That's where you'll be able to, and rather than going through the products part, I always like to send people to the store, because that way you can scroll down the page and see everything at once, everything that I have to offer. I offer 3 different bundles. The first bundle is the kitchen bundle, which consists of the Annette's Raw Kitchen DVD. That shows people how to prepare delicious, mouth-watering, non-cooked foods. And the great thing about that is because when I first started, let me tell you, and I got into the raw realm, boy, I'm telling you, I tried to sustain myself on salads alone, and that was just not cutting it. My taste buds said, girl, you have got to put some zeal in this raw deal. So I had to stop and regroup. I didn't even last a week, I don't think. I say a week, but I don't think it was a week because it was too boring, and more boring. Eventually, with all that I came to learn and know, and food preparation and everything, and I did this, made that change, and then I compiled the DVD Annette's Raw Kitchen to show people, like I said, how to prepare delicious, mouth-watering, non-cooked foods, to show them the doability of it. Because people will, oh, my goodness, how can you do it, eat nothing? Well, if you taste some of the foods, there was a reporter that came here, and she tried to eat all of the collard greens. I had a raw food display, a table display, and she tried to eat collard greens, and they were not cooked. I don't cook my greens. I don't cook anything. So.
What? And are they real tough?
No, of course not. They're marinated. I have on there on the DVD how and the recipe.
Oh, wow.
It's also in the first booklet, Journey to Health, because with that bundle that I mentioned comes the DVD Annette's Raw Kitchen, and it has the books 1 and 2, and that stuff has to be shipped. But the downloadable one is the one that you have to download it within 48 hours upon purchasing it. But then the next bundle that I offer is the health bundle, and that consists of, people will save like $50 by getting the health bundle as opposed to getting everything individually. Now that health bundle consists of, I had a show back when I was 60. The information is still
that just sounded funny, like well, back when I was 60. Wow.
Yeah, so that show, the purpose of it was to show people ways treating and preventing illness non-invasively. So it's a 12-part series. It was a 12-part series, and I had all kinds of people on there. A master herbalist who told a story about her daughter and how they had told her that her daughter would not live to see 15. She was 13 at the time. And she said, she was from Barbados, and she said, I remember when I was a girl back in Barbados, our folks used to go into the backyard, and they would get, herbs and roots and whatever. And she said, she said, I did not have a backyard here, but she had to create her own backyard. She got into playing with herbs, as she called it. Her daughter, at the time of that shooting, suffice to say that my daughter is now 35 with a beautiful 2-year-old of her own.
Wow.
And she went on to tell a story about herself, too, that happened. So that second bundle, that one, you save $50 because there are 4 DVDs with 3 shows each representing the 12 shows altogether. And you get that package, you will get the booklets Journey to Health and Journey to Health 2. But now people who already have had that first bundle that I mentioned, they're just giving those books away, passing it on, giving the books away because they already have that. For people who don't have anything, the last bundle is the Health Bundle Plus. That gives you everything. That gives you the 4 DVDs of which I spoke, along with the kitchen bundle, you see. So you get everything there. You can go to the products, but on the products, it doesn't have the downloadable. The best way to view everything, like I said, by scrolling down, is to go to the store, which is at the far right of the navigation bar, or the menu bar. And you see the store. You go in there and you can scroll up and down and see everything. People can buy individual items or they can buy the bundles, you see. It's set up for whatever one chooses to do. And, again, that is at AnnetteLarkins.com.
Are you doing anything online in terms of, like, nowadays some people use Periscope or they go Facebook Live or even YouTube Live where people can engage them and ask questions? Are you doing anything like that?
I have not done that yet. I've not done that.
Okay.
I do, I do the YouTube videos, and it's time that I do something because it's been a while. I've been so busy doing other things, but I've not done that. Not yet.
Yeah, I think that'll definitely be something good to add to your repertoire because people would appreciate engaging with you personally and, maybe do something like Ask Annette. I think that would definitely work well with what you're doing.
Better call Saul, huh? Ask Annette. Yeah. Yeah, that's something to consider for sure.
Well, I want to thank you again for just your time and just sharing some of your journey with us and taking the opportunity to just speak with us because I know that you have a lot of things going on and there's a lot of people that would love to hear your story, but I'm just glad that you had an opportunity to share that with us.
Well, I do have a lot of things going on, but it's always a pleasure to spread. I feel very blessed and where I am, and it's interesting because initially I kind of rejected because all of the help, I always like helping people, but the thing is I didn't know if I wanted the all of the attention that it garnered, but I accepted it, embraced it, and I'm very happy, and I know that this is where I should be, and I am doing what I should be doing, and so it's always a pleasure to speak with people like you who are spreading the word of good health because, again, as I said, health is wealth, and as soon as people come to recognize that and shoot for that, I'm not saying stop shooting for financial wealth now, but I'm saying, listen, by no means am I saying stop that, but I'm just saying, so it's just great that you have what you have, and I say keep up the good work what you're doing with our youth because you've got them in the palm of your hands at the very beginning, and you are really, really giving them something to appreciate and go with, and that's wonderful. So you keep doing what you're doing. Okay,
thank you. And I'll speak to you again soon.
Oh, okay. Have a good one, and thanks for having me.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.